Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore wrote the classic book Prosperity, which is about developing a prosperity consciousness. It was published in 1936 when the Great Depression was in full swing, when the entire country was deeply steeped in lack consciousness. Here is a passage from page 13. The spiritual substance from which comes all visible wealth is never depleted. It is right with you all the time and responds to your faith in it and your demands on it. It is not affected by our ignorant talk of hard times, though we are affected because our thoughts and words govern our demonstration. Pour your living words of faith into the omnipresent substance. Let us use our creative power to speak this truth into being. Look at the screen and say with me out loud, I dissolve in my mind and in all minds any idea that my good can be withheld from me. The opulent source of all has poured all resources out to and through me. I welcome it. I am a mighty channel of divine abundance.
Yeah. All right. And so it is.
I'm just going to repeat that last sentence because it's so powerful. When I pour my living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, I am prospered, though all the banks in the world close their doors. When I pour my living words of faith into the omnipresent substance, I am prospered. In other words, I'm prospered no matter what seems to be going on in the external world. This is really earth-shattering for a lot of people who have come to believe that we are at the effect of things like the economy and other people and other things going on in the world. And many of us have been caught up in that, and we can continue to get caught up in that when we watch a lot of news or see things on the media. We begin to really think that that's the way things work, but that's all backwards, right? It's all backwards. And so this idea of living substance, omnipresent substance all around us, what happens often is that the human mind will say, are you kidding me? My five senses don't see that. How could that possibly be so? And so I'd like to illustrate for you just maybe a way to get past that a little bit, if there's some of that lingering in you. Imagine that you are born with a pair of glasses on they're sunshades that are dark blue. And you go throughout your whole life wearing them and not even realizing you're wearing them. And somebody comes along and has a white piece of paper and says, what color is this? What color would you say? Blue, right. So what if I came along and took your glasses off and showed you the paper again? What would happen? You'd finally see white. This is what New Thought, Ancient Wisdom teachings do, and other deep spiritual teachings, is they help to remove those blue shades, those dark blue shades, or whatever you want to call them, which really is our subconscious, or our whole subconscious mind and its belief system, or conditioned mind, that is a filter, and it actually acts almost like these shades, that filters out these higher realms of being. So it's kind of like taking off the three-dimensional glasses, the 3D glasses, and putting on multi-dimensional glasses, realizing that what we see with our senses is one very tiny, tiny piece of what actually exists. And thanks to the mystics of all time, they were able to see this deeper reality and experience this deeper reality and transmit it to the people who are their followers. And now, in this day and age, with quantum science, there is now a realization of something much deeper going on in the universe. As much as they're able to see with microscopes, but even beyond that, with quantum theory, the unified field theory, the zero-point energy theory, all of these different theories that are out there, there is now a realization that there is this substance or energy, this intelligent livingness from which all life arises, and it's one unified presence, one source. The things that the mystics have been talking about forever. So this multidimensional approach really helps us to expand the way that we perceive the world and to begin to walk through the world with multidimensional eyes, with the awareness that surrounding us and filling us is this unformed substance of the universe ready to take expression according to what we focus on and what we think about. And so when we realize this, then we realize we are at cause. We are the cause of what happens in our lives, our experiences. Okay, so again, the third dimensional mind comes in and says, oh yeah, well, why did this happen to me? And why? You can't tell me I caused this and I caused that. I mean, that's what happens, right? I know when I first got into this teaching, I'm like, I didn't cause this or I didn't cause that. But what we begin to realize is that we are beings of the divine. We are divine beings. We are of the one source. We have the awareness and the creative power of the one. Do you feel that? Yes. And because we have that creative power, when we wake up to that, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I better be mindful about where my attention goes and what I'm focusing on and what I'm putting into my mind, what I'm filling my mind up with. Because that is what's going to show up in our lives. And so really what we see in our lives, and I keep bumping up against this all the time, is what we see in our lives that we like or that disturbs us is simply a reflection of what's going on in our subconscious mind. And the beauty of it is we can do something about it. We can transform that subconscious mind, that conditioned mind, and open ourselves to a whole different experience because of who we are, individualized expressions of the Most High. So this process of removal, it's removing blocks of energy. So remember, everything's energy. Everything's energy. Thoughts are energy. They're a type of energy. Ideas are a type of energy. Our bodies are just energy in form, that's taken form. It's a thought form where our bodies are actually a thought form. Think about that. And everything in this room, everything on our planet, everything in the universe that our physical eyes can see or our other senses can experience are simply energy or substance, the substance of the divine in form. It's the one substance, it's the one life. So our job then as spiritual beings is to remove the blocks, yes? And we remove the blocks or remove the dark blue glasses with an awareness of how the conditioned mind functions. It's important to understand that. And the conditioned mind is designed for our survival. So, there's actually a good idea behind it. But we don't want to let that conditioned mind run our lives. It's important for us to be, which is our conscious mind, our aware mind, which is our true self, to be aware of what we're believing so that we are not stuck in the same loop and the patterns that don't serve us, and we're able to step out of that. So it's designed to help us survive. So when we get a new thought or a new idea, the tendency is for the conditioned mind to put up blocks. and to say, oh my, that might be dangerous. That might be risky. You might not be safe if you do this new thing, this new venture, this new thing that you want to explore in your life. And so it kicks up all these ideas around that create the emotions of fear and worry and doubt that become emotional blocks in the human energy field. And so that's one form of block. Another form of block is that idea that I talked about before, that we are at the effect of things, and therefore, if anything bad happens to me, I look for somebody to blame. That's the human mind, the way it's conditioned. It's the way what we call in this teaching race consciousness or collective consciousness of humanity that we're all bombarded with all the time. We're surrounded by it. However, we can distinguish ourselves from that collective consciousness as we begin to know the higher truth, as we begin to put on, or let's say remove the third dimensional glasses and see with multidimensional eyes, the eyes of God. So the tendency then, if we go into blame and thinking that we're at the effect, is resentment and guilt and shame. Again, more blocks to the flow of new ideas, new rich ideas. Then we learn spiritual principles. We come to a teaching like this and we go, oh, wow, I can create my reality. I can start using new thoughts. And so what can happen in this next stage is something called spiritual bypass, which is when we don't allow ourselves to feel the feelings fully, and we instead immediately, when something bothers us, to jump to a spiritual principle like, it's all good, it's all God, before we feel the feelings. That too is a block. It's an emotional block because we're stuffing our feelings, and we don't want to stuff our feelings. So it's important to feel the feelings, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit more about these emotional blocks. So we've thought about different ways that blocks come about. Think of these blocks as dams that we build around our heart, these emotional blocks, that prevent the living waters of new ideas and creativity, well, we can do it this way, from flowing in through and as our being. And also think of these emotional blocks as a brick wall that surrounds us and stops the good from reaching us. So because it's all energy, that's how it works. These blocks are energetic blocks that stop the good from flowing in. So again, the key is feel your feelings fully. Discover what's underneath the feelings. What's the thought or the belief underneath it? You can journal if you're not sure, and you can ask a practitioner to help you if you feel really stuck on where it's coming from, so that you can discover what that is and then find the spiritual truth that is the opposite of it, and then use that as your new affirmation or your new prayer that helps you to remove that block. I've had experiences when I've discovered a block, and it was so powerful and there was so much emotional release that I've had instantaneous demonstrations right after it. Anybody ever have that experience? It's powerful when that happens. So forgiveness, this work is actually forgiveness work. This releasing the emotional blocks and allowing the higher truth to come in. And so forgiveness work is a very powerful thing. And so I wanted to offer a Buddhist prayer of forgiveness for you this morning. And so I'd like to invite you to think of something that may be blocking the way to your manifestation of what's going on in your life. And I'll give you a hint. It could be something in the world of politics that you're really upset about. It could be something on a global level that's going on. It could be an environmental issue. It could be a relationship or a group of relationships, or it could just be a personal idea that you have about yourself that's very limited. You may be looking at yourself from old patterns or something that came before, maybe ways you've behaved up until now or ideas. And so this is an opportunity to free yourself of that. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody have something in mind? Okay. So let's close your eyes. Take a breath. And then with great sincerity that comes from the heart, I invite you to silently repeat this to yourself, silently, after me. If I have harmed anyone, if I have harmed anyone in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly, through my own confusions, I ask their forgiveness. If anyone has harmed me in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly, through their own confusions, I forgive them. And if there is a situation I am not ready to forgive, I forgive myself for that. Remember to breathe. For all the ways that I harm myself, negate, doubt, or belittle myself, judge, or be unkind to myself through my confusions, I forgive myself. Take a nice deep breath and feel the spaciousness that you just created by releasing that. More room for ideas, inspiration, clarity, and creativity to flow. So you may open your eyes when you're ready. Charles Fillmore in Prosperity on page 89 wrote, "We are sometimes asked whether we advocate the accumulation of riches. No. The accumulation of riches is futile unless it is the outgrowth of a rich consciousness. We advocate the accumulation, rather, of rich ideas, ideas that are useful, constructive, and of service to the well-being of all humankind." I'm going to say that again. We advocate, rather, the rich ideas, ideas that are useful, constructive, and of service to the well-being of all humankind. The outer manifestation of riches may follow or it may not, but the supply for every need will be forthcoming because the person of rich ideas has confidence in an all-providing power that never fails. True riches are not an accumulation of money, but access to an inexhaustible inner resource that can be drawn upon at any time to meet any righteous demand. When a person has a rich consciousness, there is no necessity for accumulating stocks and bonds or property to ensure future supply. Such a person may be most generous with their wealth without fear of depletion, because their rich ideas will keep them in constant touch with abundance. So let's turn that into an affirmation. Okay, shall we? Just the last part. I can be generous with my wealth because my rich ideas keep me in constant touch with abundance. That's how it works. But it means that we look at life with multidimensional eyes. We stop looking at it with the third dimensional eyes that just says, oh, I only have a limited amount of whatever it is here. That's third dimensional eyes. Multidimensional eyes means there is an abundance of good, and my good is just flowing through me into expression, so that I can bring more good onto the planet. It's a whole different way of being and seeing. During the Great Depression, the same time that this book was written, rich ideas were discovered that became inventions. So even in the midst of the Depression, there were inventions and new things that came forth, probably out of the demand, out of the, crisis can be a great stimulator for new ideas, and this is what happened. So Jacob Schick drew up designs for the world's first electric razor as a solution because he had found himself in his unheated home lathering up and trying to shave and cutting himself, I'm sure, and decided that he wanted to come up with something that was a dry razor, so no matter whether it was hot or cold or whatever, he could shave with safety. And by 1929, Schick razors were on the shelves, right in the middle of the Depression. The car radio was invented by Paul and Joseph Galvin in 1930. By 1933, Ford picked up on the idea and was installing radios in new cars, in all of its new cars. Motorola was the name of that company by the Galvin brothers. In 1933, chocolate chip cookies were invented by Ruth Wakefield. And because of the shortage of different kinds of products, she couldn't find chocolate. She couldn't find to make chocolate cookies. So she became inventive, and she saw a bunch of chocolate bars, and so she chopped them up into little chunks and threw them into cookie dough. Chocolate chip cookies. She sold her recipe to Nestle. The rest is history. And there were many more. I had a whole bunch of other ones, but I it would take a lot of time to go through them. The point is that rich ideas create rich results. Ideas are the currency of God. Ideas, and repeat that after me. Ideas are the currency of God. Yes. So Elizabeth Gilbert, in her book Big Magic, I did a whole talk series on that, if you remember. It was really a lot of fun. I love her way of describing ideas. She's looking at life with multidimensional eyes, because listen to this. She said, there are an infinite number of formless ideas floating around in the energy field all around us. So think of ideas swirling all around, searching for willing human partners. When the idea sees a possible partner, it sends a little signal. But here's what happens, is we miss the signal when we are doing other important things, like watching TV or brooding over what we don't like about other people or ourselves. Right? We block that flow of those ideas. So the idea then will try to wave us down, maybe for years, until it realizes that we aren't open to being enchanted by its inspiration. And then it'll move on to another person. So how many of you at some times have said, oh, that person stole my idea? They didn't steal your idea. You were not receptive to it. So it went on to another person. Okay? That's how it works. Okay, so she said, but sometimes there comes a moment when you're open and relaxed enough, and then the magic can slip through. The idea will send universal signals of inspiration. For me, it's God bumps. Anybody else get any type of, you get certain things that are inspiration. Hair standing on the back of your neck might be it, or a nervous stomach. Those feelings of falling in love. Yeah, that's what it is. When new ideas come, it feels that way. I'm in love. When you write a song, Sharon, yes?
Yes.
What kind of signals do you get?
Well, these days it's as much performing as it is writing them. I literally I have so much God force coming through me. I can hardly play. It's just sometimes you see it, I'm like literally vibrating. Yeah, no, it's exhilarating to finish a song, especially when they just come through.
Yes, yes. And those of you who are artists, when divine inspiration comes through, yes, it's powerful. And every one of us, whether we're writers or artists or musicians, or whether we are executives or bookkeepers or ministers or practitioners or whatever, when inspiration moves through, it is a powerful feeling. I mean, I literally do get God bumps, and I can feel the energy just rushing through me, and it feels great. And I'm having that right now. So when that happens, it's kind of as if the idea is saying, do you want to work with me? Want to work with me? And the truth is, this is what Gilbert said, is we can decide whether to say yes or no. You know, these are ideas. Because she said sometimes the idea is not right for her. And so what she says to the idea, I'm honored by your visitation, but I'm not your girl. Try Barbara Kilsaw. She gives the idea an idea of who to go to. And in her book, she actually did that. She sent the idea to some other writer. And sure enough, the writer within the next year had written a book on that idea. So that's why she knows that this is really true. This is how it works. So she said, I use the most gracious manners when sending an idea away so the universe doesn't think that I am difficult to work with. She said, be sympathetic to the poor idea. All it wants to do is be realized. It has to knock on every door it can. Isn't that beautiful? And so the other choice, of course, is yes. When you get the God bumps and you get the inspiration, you can say yes. And then be ready, though, for the conditioned mind to kick in, because it very well may, to tell you you can't do it, you're not enough, you don't deserve, all that stuff. So you have to realize that will come up, and to do it anyway. Roll up your sleeves, get to work, do it anyway. So, to be open to the rich ideas of the universe that are swirling all around us, we do our forgiveness work. When the ideas do land, we treat them with kindness and either send them away with love or roll up our sleeves and get to work and not allow ourselves to be pulled down by those thoughts of fear that come from the conditioned mind that try to convince us and throw doubt in our faces. So I'd like to leave you with this quote from Ernest Holmes from Creative Mind and Success. He said, when that something inside us tells us that we are being led, then no matter what it appears like, we must follow it up. Something beyond our intelligence is doing the thing through us, and we must do nothing to contradict it. Great men are the ones who get a vision and then go to work to make it come true with one-pointedness and calm determination. Stick to the thing until it is accomplished. So, let's take a breath. Stand up. Stand up, everybody. And open your arms and just say, I am open, receptive to those rich ideas.
I am open and receptive to those rich ideas
that are perfect for me.
I
am so grateful.
I am so grateful.
Thank you, life.
Thank you, life.
And so it is.
And so it is.
All right. Woo!